I'm Christina, a recovering people pleaser turned assertiveness expert. I was tired of taking the back seat to what other people wanted, and I finally cracked the code to go from hesitant and timid to self-assured and confident. I became a women's empowerment coach so that I could help other women like me find their words, feel heard, and step into their power. If you struggle to speak up in tricky situations and you're looking to change the way your conversations go, you're in the right place. Whether we realize it or not, we have experiences in our lives where we've spoken up and some part of it worked well. Maybe the entire conversation didn't go well, but there is at least one piece that was good. But the human brain has a tendency to focus on the negative from a situation. Let's say I brought up a concern to my friend Cheryl, and she didn't take it well. I'm probably going to see that as a failure. But on the flip side, I can celebrate the fact that I finally did bring up the topic, and it was further than I got before. If it's a strong relationship, we'll survive. If the person takes, irrevocable offense and treats me differently, the real question goes back to the relationship and who the other person is and what their mess is. So, before I shifted my own mindset, here's what I used to do. I like to feel like I have control over a situation. One of the big ways I would do that is I would prepare and practice and research all the things. There were several situations where I had a certain plan laid out. I'll say this, and then they'll respond like this, and I'll have a counterpoint, and it'll be amazing, right? Have you ever had that? Have you ever had the perfect conversation in your head? Well, one day I saw this picture on social media, and it gave me some perspective. It said, I always win the fictional argument in my mind that hasn't even happened yet. And I raised my hand and I was like, yep, that's me. And I realized how much I was overthinking. And I also found that as much as I prepared, the other person would respond in a way that I hadn't thought of or in a way that I least expected. In the last episode, I gave an example with my husband and where that exact thing happened. And it used to be that I would feel stumped and I would try harder and I'd be like, okay, well, I just need to plan better. But that wasn't what was needed. I was successful. I actually won when I started realizing that I could be in a situation and not die. Literally, the way the conversation went did not lead to fire and brimstone. I showed myself that I could do something, and it wasn't life or death. I realized that my improv skills were actually okay, and every time I noticed the good, I just kept getting better at the good. So let's revisit my example from the last episode. I have a massage office where I rent out this office in a totally different office building outside of my house, and the air conditioner in my room wasn't working, so property management said that the HVAC guy would come, and what they specifically told me was the HVAC person would call me to schedule a time to come and meet. And then the next day, I think it was, my neighbor texted me and she goes, hey, the maintenance guy is here. And I wasn't at the office yet. I was going to be within the next half hour, but I wasn't there yet. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm getting ready as fast as I can. I'm getting all the things I need, supplies and everything. And I told my neighbor, okay, well, can you stall him? Can you, kind of mostly what's going on, and she goes, yeah, I can help you. When I got into the office, I saw the truck was there and I raced in. And I see this guy sitting in the lobby with a blue shirt. It, kind of looks like a uniform. And I asked him, I said, "Are you the maintenance guy?" And he looked up at me and he goes, "You think?" I was stunned for a second. I paused and then I said, "I was told that the maintenance person would contact me to schedule a time to be here." And he was quiet and he said, "Yeah, I needed to do that. I probably dropped the ball on that." It totally flipped how the conversation was going. He was upset with me for not being there. Well, he didn't tell me when to be there. I have business hours. I can't just show up and be there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or whatever it is. So, after I successfully did that, I remember feeling a little stunned, like, "Oh, okay, all right, that worked." What worked? How did I manage that? I stayed in it a little bit after the conversation. And what I did was I put my overthinking into productive use. I said, okay, he was how he was and I was frazzled and there was that whole other piece of the exchange and I wasn't happy that he was there outside of my controlled window and everything like that. But what was it that worked and how did I turn this conversation around? And then how can I replicate it to do it again and then to maybe pass this strategy on to you? So it's just a fact. Not every interaction or conversation is going to go the way we want it to, but we can always learn something from it. What did work? Or what can we learn from this and tweak it for next time? So on that second point, what can we learn and what can we do better for next time? Let me give you another example. I had this friend who was on my volleyball team. And one day we were just having a discussion and she was trying to get her point across. And what I noticed was she kept repeating what she was saying. And then I would state where I was coming from and she kind of just kept going in a circle. Well, at the time, I thought we were trying to see each other's perspectives and come to a middle ground. I thought maybe I was agreeing with her with what she was saying and adding how I felt. But it turned out I talked to another friend and I got her insights. And it was really cool for me to get these outside insights because I learned that probably what was going on with my volleyball friend is she wanted to feel heard. She kept repeating herself in an effort to feel heard. What I learned from this exchange was that in hearing her thought, I could have then repeated back in my own words what I heard her say. But by me just kind of replying with my own thought process, she probably thought I was trying to value my thoughts over hers. So in this case, the exchange itself wasn't productive. We didn't reach an agreement, but I learned something from it. It was something, it was years ago, but it was something where she had her way of receiving the ball, and I had a way that I knew that I learned through coaching and through formal, middle school and high school volleyball play. And I was trying to coach her. It turned out she wasn't open to coaching and she felt that I was no more qualified than her to make the calls. This exchange by itself, we just kept going in circles. And it wasn't productive and we didn't reach an agreement, but I learned something from it. So now when I realize that someone repeats themselves, I make sure that I acknowledge what they said in my own words. And 90% of the time that tends to do it. Like they feel heard and they feel like they got their point out and it was received. So the next time you're in a conversation and maybe it doesn't go completely well, pick out something that did go well. And you might even pick out something that you can learn and say, okay, this time this happened. I didn't get that quite right. But how can I move forward and how can I use this or do this more effectively the next time? By focusing on what went well, you'll reinforce what you did do. And by consciously taking a lesson from it, you can then take one more step towards mastering tricky situations. And you learn a lesson, you tweak it, you do it better the next time. Sometimes it's not all about like we have a bad conversation and we want the next one to go smoothly. It's how does the next conversation go better? And these are two big things that you can look at to make those incremental steps. And they add up and they really turn into a total transformation. All right? Talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. If you're looking for a way to gain more confidence when you're confronted with tricky situations, download my free guide, 3 Simple Steps to Speak Up for Yourself, even when you just want to run and hide. Check out the link in the show notes to get your copy. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the Empowering Women's Words podcast. Talk to you soon.